Thank you, Chairman Bilirakis. Last Congress, I was proud to chair this committee as we advanced the strong, comprehensive, and bipartisan American Data Privacy and Protection Act. And this bill put consumers back in control of their data, stopped aggressive and abusive data collection by big tech, and rejected the failed notice and consent regime. It also required data minimization and algorithmic accountability in order to ensure companies collect only the data they need to serve their customers. So my questions are of Ms. Kack. Do you believe that notice and consent is a sufficient mechanism to protect consumers and their data from the harmful and abusive practices of tech companies?
Thank you, Mr. Pallone. The short answer is no. Notice and consent mechanisms are necessary, but they are far from sufficient. So can they be a powerful lever? Yes, and I think the best example we have of this is Illinois' BIPA law, that where consent has actually been leveraged to shut down some of the most concerning uses of AI, for example, Clearview AI. But even there, it is buttressed by a bright line prohibition, which prevents companies from profiting off the sale of our biometric information. Now, the core weakness of consent, of course, is that it completely breaks down anytime there is stark power asymmetry. It breaks down in the workplace, it breaks down in schools, but as Mr. Gregg just pointed out, arguably that power asymmetry affects all of us and is all pervasive, right? And that is particularly why the ADPPA is so strong, because it has the whole suite. It has consent, it has data rights, but crucially, it's setting the rules of the road so that these rules of the road apply regardless of what the consumer so-called chooses.
All right, thank you. Now, how does the rapid growth of AI impact the urgency of implementing strong, comprehensive federal data privacy legislation that implements clear rules about or around data minimization and algorithmic accountability?
Thank you, Mr. Pallone. I would argue that data privacy has been an urgent priority for the last decade in the United States, but the events of the last few years, and maybe particularly of the last few months, only reinvigorate calls for urgency. There are three main reasons that AI makes the passage of a data minimization mandate crucial. The first is the obvious one, which is privacy. We're seeing new privacy threats emerge from AI systems. We talked about the future threats and how we don't know where AI is going to go, but we absolutely do know what harms they're already causing. They're leaking personal information. They could potentially be leaking patient data in healthcare contexts. These privacy risks are not abstract, even if the technologies are portrayed as these abstract, magical systems. The harms are very, very real. The second is competition. As I mentioned in my testimony, this is very, very crucial because we're at a moment where unchecked commercial surveillance is being incentivized by AI systems, and unless we have rules of the road, we're going to end up in a situation where where the kind of state of play against consumers is entrenched. And thirdly, this is crucial. Data privacy law is crucial for national security as well. We need security norms in place to make sure that, you know, the way we like to say it is that data that is never collected is not at risk, or data that is deleted after a reasonable period of time will no longer be at risk. So we need to really minimize the surface area of attack, and I think at the current moment, in the absence of a federal privacy law, we risk not only competitive and privacy threats, but I would argue national security threats as well.
Well, that gets to my last question, Ms. Kack. In addition to protecting consumer privacy, what other harms can be addressed with data minimization principles? For example, you mentioned, doesn't it help address data security challenges and national security concerns?
Absolutely. The way we like to say it, Mr. Pallone, is that we're essentially creating gold mines for, and honeypots, really, for cyber criminals of all varieties. And this can be, and you know, as Mr. Gregg and others pointed out, we're actually incentivizing the creation of databases, including of databases of kids' information, that's kids' images and videos. And we have an example recently where it was reported that we have a large children's database that was created and was being sold by a company called Megaface. These kinds of practices are going to become the norm, and AI is only supercharging existing incentives for unchecked and invasive data surveillance.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
I thank the ranking member, and you know, we just gavelled in, the House did, but out of respect to the witnesses and the audience, we're going to keep going as long as we possibly can. So I'll recognize